Hi, welcome back. I am Joel Yarbrough from Rapyd. Welcome back to our Ask Me Anything sessions live from the Rapyd office. If you are in the networking zone, you can find us here and every day in the boat key section. The fact we're actually in Tanjung Pagar, blur your eyes a little bit. Format of the sessions, as always, is informal. This is an Ask Me Anything session. And in particular, when our guests are as august as the ones we have today and as outspoken, anything hopefully means anything. So I'll be checking the chat periodically to look for some zingers and to share them with our guest and see how he does. So with that, I am very pleased to have Prajit Nanu, co-founder of Instagram, now NIUM, one of the great platforms to scale your business internationally, which I hope he's going to tell us about, and a sometime competitor of mine. So we'll see what we come up with. But also a friend. So Prajit, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Joel, for the glowing introduction.
Oh, it'll be more glowing as we go along. So first and foremost, what brought you to work in Southeast Asia?
I think Southeast Asia was an interesting market. Mincing no words, I was actually asked to move to Southeast Asia. We were raising our first round of capital.
Or just say you were pushed out of somewhere else.
So I was living in India. I was pretty happy, own house, things around to do, stuff like that. And suddenly we were raising a Series A, and Vertex Ventures, when they were leading the Series A, they said, hey, we need a throat to catch, and that can't be as far out as India. So if you're serious about raising money from us, you have to move to Singapore. Mm-hmm. And funnily, that became such an interesting point, and that was 5 years back, and I've been here since 5 years. So if you'll ask me, was it the burgeoning market, the QR code payments, which was kind of growing, etc.? That's not the case. The investor said, will you move here? I said, yeah, of course.
Sure. There you go. Easy dialogue. And so just to set the stage, what were you doing right before you founded what was then Instagram?
Sure.
And what was the inspiration?
I think my career is consulting. Started my career in Gartner Consulting, which is not even there on my LinkedIn deliberately. I don't think I'm a consultant at heart. More passionate, driving things. Spent about 10 years then doing non-consulting work in the IT and the outsourcing space. Worked in the US, worked in the UK, came back home, back into India. Always wanted to do something of my own. So when I now meet founders and say that, oh, I want to do something on their own, my first question is, hey, how many domains do you have? I have over 20 domains, which I've since 2005 constantly renewing, etc. Always wanted to do something, but didn't have the passion or didn't think the project was big enough. Then 2013, I had a personal problem of moving money. And then that just became the exciting part. Did a lot of Googling, figured out it's a massive market, there's a massive issue. Mm-hmm. And that's how Instagram was kind of given birth to, right? So interesting journey. We scaled the business pretty quickly. Even today, from where we stand, we are a top 5 digital remittance platform. Asia will be bigger than any of the global peers. 2016, 2017, we saw a big change happening. One change, which was a lot of large enterprises started reaching out to us saying, hey, can we use you to make our payments as well? And we said, oh, wow, let's do that. And 2017, we saw the fact that a lot of large platforms with distribution capabilities, say Grab, Gojek, etc., everyone wanting to be a fintech platform, right? And we realized that, hey, why don't we create a platform which enables other platforms to become fintechs? And that's where we kind of re-christed, and that's why NIUM happened as a brand, rebranding as well. So you see what NIUM is. NIUM is the way we kind of portray NIUM now is that we're a universal plug for financial services. Plug us in and access creation of financial products in 40 plus markets where we're licensed.
And if I recall correctly, this is the 1-year birthday of the name, right? You launched
exactly.
at SFF last year.
It's been rebranding. I keep telling other founders that at no junction in your life, for a licensed and regulated entity, ever go through a rebrand. Mm-hmm. It's probably the most painful decision we went. We had a team of 6, and all they were doing is working with regulators, working with banks. Imagine we had 40, 45 different bank accounts which require a name change,
yep.
Documentation, regulatory. Finally, I think we spent over $1.5 million doing all of these things. It's incredible. So changing a name of a regulated entity is as good as changing an engine during mid-flight. Sure. Of a plane, right?
Sure. And so as someone who is, a celebrated founder in the market here, what has it been like? And I guess a big part of your team is in India as well, which is 2 different dynamics, right? What's it been like running a team this year in these 2 jurisdictions and around the world?
Right. I think it sucks, right? So I know a lot of people are talking about remote being the new thing. I think as a founder, I think it sucks. Two things, your ability to walk the floor and bump into somebody whom you don't know, and you suddenly have a long conversation, and he tells you about the background, he or she tells you about the background, things what they have done, etc. There's such good insights, right? They feel very comfortable to ping you on a Teams or a WhatsApp saying, hey, I have this idea, this is what I want to do, hey, what do you think about this? Compared to them seeing you on a similar all hands on deck kind of a meeting. You can ask Slido questions. You feel it's very informal, like it's very formal, sorry, and you don't really build the rapport, right? There's no concept of brainstorming. I'm a painful founder. If I'm in an office, if I see a meeting going in, I'll just go sit there. If somebody is interviewing a candidate, I would just go sit. Yeah, just drop by, listen to the conversation, and just I miss that part of. Like, I wish Zoom had a feature where I could just figure out the meetings my colleagues are having and I just jump into each meeting.
Do them all on house party. You could be like, hey.
Yeah, like it's so important, right? Because what makes us amazing is the fact that our ability to connect to the ground, speak to people, customers, etc. But I don't think I have the connect now, right? We've added over 100 people this year. I don't know how we've done it, how we've got laptops to people, how we've got internet connectivity to people, or all of that aspects. But I think remote sucks, right? Like I'm really pushing to get colleagues back in office. We were trying to do a couple of M&As earlier this year, and I had difficulty getting people back to office. People were like sort of, can I not be here? Like I was listening to excuses that I'll have to bring my desktop to the office. I said, hey, you have a laptop, get it into the office, right? So I'm non-apologetic to that. I think the need is a blended way of doing a remote. I understand the need of remote, but that in-person thing is something I miss.
Do you see yourself being a 5-day-a-week in the office person next year?
I see myself being wanting to be 5-day person, but it's going to be super tough. Like if you look at what Singapore is doing the right way, is that we've got the phased way of kind of starting. So the way it's being set up, I think it's the right thing to do. I think we'll get 70-80% of the staff. So I'm now 2 days at office. I will increase it to 3 days, and I want to go to 5 days like very soon. If you'll ask me, can I go to 5 days of work? I would do it as of tomorrow.
You would. Was there anything that's actually been a little bit easier than you thought it would be in retrospect?
What and I keep saying this to everyone, I'm not missing the get up at 4 a.m. and go to Jakarta day trips. Like, listen, those are out of my books. I'm never, ever doing it again, right? I don't want to go to Jakarta. I don't want to go to Bangkok. I don't want to go to any of these places which are those day trips. The things which I'm missing is the long flights. Right, so I'm really missing the aspect of being on a 15-hour flight to San Francisco. My favorite joke used to be that it always used to be me and a homeless trying to get into a Pete's in the morning at 4 a.m. when they open, right? Because you are jet lagged.
And he just wanted the Wi-Fi.
He wants hot water. I need coffee. I still remember the most funniest experience was that first time the Pete's was right under my hotel, and I just walked down in like my pants, and I just didn't dress up, right? And the guy looked at me and I gave him a long list. I need a coffee, I need a muffin, I need a sandwich. He was wondering whether, is this guy really going to pay up, right? So, but yeah, I miss those travels because you spend so much time to yourself. Now you're fully accessible, you're home. Life's very mundane, right? I'm trying to do something super interesting next week. I'm actually going to lock myself in a hotel room. Only my wife knows where I am. And no Wi-Fi, no internet, no laptop, no TV. So I've written to the hotel to take the TV out of the room. I'm just going to spend 2 days just thinking. My wife thinks I may be crying like a baby for the 2 days. She may be right.
Very possible.
She may be right, but listen, I want to do it.
That's good. It's good to go to the mountaintop sometimes, right? And come back down.
Correct.
That's very interesting. How do you think your team has taken it, right? I mean, obviously having less of you has got to be great for them. But beyond that, what type of experiences do you see from them or coming back up to you?
I think what has also happened is that a lot of communication has increased, right? I think we have been communicating better than last year. I think that's positive. Last year we never used to do all hands on deck, like all company wide together, things like that. I think the communication has become much better. But at the same point of time, unanimously everyone's told me that they struggle at doing anything which is like planning, right? Our product team are planning a roadmap for 2021, and they were like sort of trying to do 2 sessions a day, morning time in the US. Because imagine we have distributed people. We have our CPO sits in Seattle, his core team sits in Singapore. Few people sit in India, few people sit in Australia, the UK. Trying to get one time zone is unbelievably tough. So I think the challenge has been communication. Is also the fact that we are over communicating right now, which is good and bad in its own perspective, right? So I think you have to be careful of what you communicate. But getting people together, like we're trying to do 2021 OKR sessions, trying to do it via phones. You can't really, and I made this comment today in a call with someone that you can't anymore, like on a Zoom call, where you're saying something with a smile at the end of it, which is normally challenging something while being dismissive to a person, right? Mostly I would be taken as a dismissive person and not saying that, hey, I'm trying to funnily challenge to you. So those are, nuances. I don't have answers to that. Like, how do you be polite on Zoom?
Right. Emoji. Emoji. Cool. So if you look at other founders, and obviously you're a big part of the community here, are there people that you've seen do surprisingly well in 2020? Who's inspiring you in terms of how they've taken the bull by the horns?
I don't think there's any founder in the region who kind of like really inspires the hell out of me. I'm always inspired by DBS as a bank. For the size of the bank, their agility and ability to do things is incredible. Like, I think the fact that whoever's got the digital banking licenses, their jobs are cut out. Like this is going to be a tough race, and DBS is not going to lose it. This is what I think where I'm sitting. So a lot of respect to what they've created, the tech stack. We work with so many different banks across the world. We work with some of the largest banks in the world, but the best API stack we find is DBS. So which says a lot about it. I don't think there are any specific founders. I'm of course, I like what you guys are doing as a business. I like a lot of people. Inspiration is also about how, like I keep telling my team that how is Rapyd able to add so many different countries at the same point of time, and why are we, why are we going so deep into a product? Can't we add more countries, right? There are a lot of interesting nuances which I see among peers. TransferWise recently got a ABA license in Australia. Fantastic, right? Because Australia is such a big market, a lot of de-risking happens. So you're always at the gelatin of the bank saying that one day the bank will say, hey, we don't want to serve MSB, right? So those are so many risks which people are, so small pockets, but I don't see a founder which is like impresses the hell out of me saying that, hey, this is something they're not thinking. Majority of us, I still think, are thinking 2021. I haven't met a founder who's thinking 2022, 2023 exits, etc. I think that's a big challenge.
We'll call those realistic founders at this point. We're like, let's talk after New Year's. See how that's going. So you mentioned the digital banks, right? So that'd be remiss not to touch that, right? So we've had some interesting folks get a license.
Right.
If you play it forward 2-3 years, who do you think is going to have a meaningful impact, and what do you think the impact is going to be, and how much of it is really success of someone who's a new entrant versus transformation of people that are already in the market?
I think the big question which I ask myself, let's say I'm a decent sized user of the bank products, right? Like I have a wealth account, I even trade stocks in it, I have my salary lies there, I have a multi-currency debit card. In fact, funnily, you're the one who told me about the DBS multi-currency card, like 4 years back or something like that. So when you think about it, I personally, and being a fintech founder, I shouldn't be saying this publicly, I don't think any of these guys will make a big dent in the market. Will they, like big dent mean, will they be 10% market share, etc.? I think base banking products are well catered to. Like I keep challenging some of these guys I meet. I say that, hey, reimagine a credit card, right? That's what the world needs. We don't need another bank account. We don't need another remittance play. All of that is well taken care of, right? It's already a race to the bottom. What we need is a product, old school product, but reimagined in a new way, right? So if you're going to offer me the same salary multiplier account, you're going to give me for $20,000, you're going to give me 2%. Are you really expecting me to move my bank account, right? It's like sometimes my wife makes fun of me. I was asking her to put somewhere money for 2%, and that's the limit was about $20,000. She looked at me and she said, I'm going to make $400 out of it. Do you really want me to put my money? Like, of course, it was safe, but her value is $400.
Worth the transaction cost.
Exactly, right? So now these are questions which those guys will have to answer. Singapore is not the cheapest place to get a license. $1 billion of paid up capital is not easy. So I personally believe the fact that they will make an effort. The good thing about Grab and Shopee getting on the consumer side, they have a massive distribution network. But hey, that massive distribution network is restricted to 4.5 million people.
Exactly.
Right? So, and we've got to everyone, like when I moved to Singapore, I had opened like 3 different bank accounts. Now I only use one. Right, because Indian in me said, "Oh, let me kind of spread across."
It all out. Yeah.
Now I said, "Hey, that's not needed, right? Let's just."
It's too much friction
correct.
for the benefit.
Will I set up an account to get freebies on Shopee and Grab? Yes. But will that be my primary salary account? Hey, you need to do a lot more to get that. That's at least my view.
Yeah, and I think that's this problem we've seen around the world, right? Extremely low balances
correct.
For basically an incremental account or a marginal account,
correct.
Right? And so they get all the transaction expense, very low balance,
correct.
and unless they get into lending very quickly,
correct.
How do you make money?
Correct. It's like I really love what Monzo has built, and I think I see the vision in future that now they are attracting all these teenagers and young kids across onto their accounts, and they'll get a job, and this will continue to be their primary account. But hey, it's a long haul, right? No bank has become profitable in 5 years. In Singapore, you're expected to be profitable in 5 years.
Yeah.
And
if you go back, I mean, not to age all of us, right? But if you go back 10 years, right, the biggest determinant of where you opened your bank account was, did you walk past the branch between the subway and your office, right?
Exactly.
And the idea that the entire world is going to go upside down, maybe not.
And I think Singapore is unique in its aspect, like, because in Hong Kong, the banks were crap, right? Like one of my friends moved to run Samsonite, very well-known company for the region. I'm sure he made good money. And it took him 6 months for HSB to send him a credit card, like 3-4 months to send him a debit card, like few trips to the branch to set up an account. I had a colleague, I moved from Hong Kong to Singapore. She had an account online with an online experience.
Yeah.
So basic things are done right here. So that's why I think some of these guys have to reimagine an existing product. And I keep telling them, everyone I meet, I said, reimagine the credit card, reimagine the credit card. Credit has not gone through a change in 50 years.
Well, I think ironically, right, a lot, if you look at buy now, pay later, if you look at one of my favorite products, which is Grab Pay Later, like it's a charge account, right?
Correct.
It's a charge account from 40 years ago, right?
Correct.
And it's just making it work better using digital technology. They didn't reinvent. They brought back something that was already classic.
Correct.
And my brother's a journalist. I tell him horrible things all the time. The first consulting firm I worked at, which is a very prosperous consulting firm, we basically advised all the banks on how to jack fees. And you're like, oh, so we're the ones that broke the old model, right? Then we had this 30-year run of them raising fees and costs, et cetera, and now we're bringing back a new wave to pull all of that back to where we were.
Absolutely. And if you look at buy now, pay later, right? Like during the lockdown, I became a baker, as majority did. I was buying things.
Thank you for the sourdough you've bought for us.
And the funny part is that I'm still getting abused because I started buying things which I wouldn't have bought at all. Like I started buying a Dyson vacuum cleaner, a KitchenAid mixer, right? And all of these things, what I was doing is DBS had a great scheme where I could split it across 12 months on Lazada. And hey, and my wife looked at me and said that, are you nuts? Why would you even buy this? And I said, listen, it was $200, all of that included.
Yep.
So I'm good for $200 is what I told her.
There you go.
She looked at me and she said, okay, if I would have said, and it's the same thing, in reality I've spent $2,400, but if I'm saying $200 a month, no interest,
for
no
sure.
cost.
Yeah, no, and that's what I found so interesting when you look at installments in India, in Turkey, in Brazil, markets that have had this way longer than BNPL.
Right.
People look at it basically as lifestyle, right? So
Right.
in your case, here's a $200 hole.
Correct.
Every month, how am I filling that? And eventually
Exactly.
something rolls off and you add something else back. But that's
Right.
kind of your funny money hole or whatever it is. And whether that's a large or small portion of people's income, they can budget, right?
Correct.
Whereas the traditional consumer credit APR model is designed around making sure you can't budget,
Correct,
right?
correct.
And that's the challenge.
And I think banks are finding it interesting, right? So I don't know whether you read it. It came out yesterday. Capital One is now blocking buy now, pay later transactions because they think that the
Competition.
It's competition as well as they're thinking that there is a non-credit worthy person where you're kind of extending credit.
Sure.
So, but
Certainly would make to give them credit, right? They have the data, right? And
Exactly.
I'm sure that they're seeing exactly that.
Exactly.
You know, I had a conversation a long time ago with Max from Affirm,
Right.
and you know, big data guy, et cetera. And he said, "Look, here's all this stuff." I said, "Look, I'm a data guy. You're a data guy. Like,
Right.
What matters? Tell me what matters." He said, "Is the guy in the army." Right? Because which is in the U.S. classically the most over-lent to segment, but the reality is the propensity to repay,
Right.
to do the right thing is just off the charts. So people with military service repay, everyone else
Nice. Okay.
don't. Right? So it's totally counterintuitive, but it's about the psychology of the buyer.
Right.
Which,
But if you look at Affirm, right, sticking to the Affirm point, I was shocked to see 35-40% of revenue being Peloton. It's like, if that's not shocking.
but that's also a COVID effect too, right?
I guess so.
How many friends do you have know that have a Peloton now? So
Exactly.
quite a few, right? Which actually raises a couple of interesting points, right? You are moving to the land of Peloton. I believe you announced yesterday that you'll be moving to California.
Right.
What inspired that move?
I think.
And is your wife open to you getting a Peloton?
My wife is not open to moving. That's a separate conversation in itself. But I think if you look at, and let me reverse this question, right? Because I know you're part of this. What was the biggest fintech exit in Southeast Asia?
I don't know.
$60-70 million, right? Right.
There you go.
Right, 60-70 million.
Oh, yeah, a number. I was like,
Yeah, like $60-70 million. What's the biggest exit in Southeast Asia? Ali buying Lazada for $1 billion, which was at a point of time a distress seller. So if you really look at it, like Southeast Asia is a great market. We've got all good investors, etc. But exits don't exit, right? Like it's just not there, right? So if you need to really think about exiting the business, right? We are a 5-year-old business. We have to either IPO or figure out a strategic sale to a large platform. If you think about it, I don't see, even at the current valuation we would be running at, any player coming and say, oh, you know, and those mindsets don't exist here. So that's, I think, I'm kind of catapulting, putting all my family. Singapore is a great place to raise kids. I have 2 under 2, which is like chaos in itself. But I'm catapulting everything from one market to the other, because I believe that exits lie in wider Western markets.
Right.
You know, I don't see exit lying here. Like, you know, unless you can tell me, I haven't seen a formidable exit here. Everything has been sub 100 million.
So if you look at this as an exit interview, so to speak, right? What's your advice then, right, to the ecosystem,
Right.
to the regulators? Like, what has to change that dynamic?
I think it's not to the regulators. They have all done a brilliant job, right? Regulatory forward thinking is much more in this part of the world than in any part of the world. I think some of the larger players need to grow a bit of their own. I can't use this word because it's a live interview, but I think larger players need to kind of grow up saying that we still penny pinch. Oh, you know, the largest banks here will be, oh, I'm not going to give you $100,000 setup fee. We, you know, appropriated over 12 months and things like that. I think players in the market, the larger things, they just need to be, you know, being Asian, we are always seeking a deal, right? Oh, you know, you know, if you did a last round evaluation at X, let's do 20% discount, and I mean, this whole deal hungry thing, right? Look at US, right? Look at the Plaid Visa acquisition. Phenomenal, right? Plaid was, you know, rumored to make $120 million. Visa bought it at $5 billion. MasterCard buying FinCity. You can Intuit, Credit Karma, right? Like, so many deals are happening in the Western markets. Do you really think these guys are deal hunting, or these guys are projecting the fact that let's do this and 5 years later this investment will be 10x or what? That's the thinking. I think that thinking is missing. It's more about let's buy cheap and build. We've been trying to acquire companies. We think the same way. We're trying to buy companies cheap. But I think that mindset needs to unilaterally change, right? And what worries me about the Southeast Asia startup ecosystem is some startups are becoming bigger. I'm sure when you would have moved to Grab, you know, you would have seen very few over 100 million startups, right? Now there are quite a few. There are quite a few which have come up. There are few which are hitting the 400, 500 bracket. People like Carousel are now hitting the 800, 900 bracket, non-fintech. But what's the exit, right? Is any exchange here except ASX who's got the afterpay angle? You know, if we kind of try to, let's look at us or Rapyd, like loss-making entities trying to invest, become an SGX company. Right. No one's going to buy us, right? No one's going to, that liquidity isn't there. So creating that liquidity pool is the most important element. Like
superannuation.
I keep pushing founders, like whoever are 100 million plus, start doing secondaries of your shares. Because in Southeast Asia is a very tough market to hire because a lot of people don't believe in power of shares, right? How many, unlike a San Francisco or the UK or a Europe, where you may bump into a guy who sold his stocks and now has a house. How many of them do you know in Southeast Asia?
Interesting. So with you moving and part of your management team already on the West Coast, how is your business going to evolve over the next 2 years?
I think there'll be a lot of evolve. One of the other reasons I'm also moving is the funny fact about San Francisco was I used to pitch to a large startup and I still do all my hustle pitches. And at the end of the meeting, they used to say, "Hey, can I give you like a seed round? Like, are you looking to raise seed round? I can put $25,000." Then I have to remind people that we've raised $120 million. But I think what we're trying to do is kind of increase the buzz around the market. We've got a great product stack. We've got good people. But what we are really crap at today is marketing ourselves a bit better, right? So today I was speaking in the morning with a large Silicon Valley startup, and he was pretty shocked to having not heard about us before.
Yeah, shocked to hear the scale already.
He's shocked to hear the scale, shocked to hear the fact that some of our client names, how we are able to do things. Our regulatory angle helps people. So like a capability which we never talk about, you've never heard about. We are the only guys globally. So if you use a Visa or a MasterCard scheme in India, only banks are allowed to do INR settlement. We're the only plugin. If you plug us in, a non-bank, a fintech or any marketplace can do INR settlement. We can provide the API to do. Do we talk about it? No. Do you see literature on it online? No. So I think so. We just hired a chief revenue officer to kind of build that thing. So I think the movement is more around putting that energy in that brand, putting our name out there,
right.
Kind of hitting the roads and payments. And some of it, right, I wish 5 years later I could say that we are not a founder-run startup, we're still a founder-run startup. So being on the ground helps. There is no deal in Southeast Asia where we are not invited in. So me moving to San Francisco is not going to make any change. The team here is very well plugged in. We are very well known here. So the conversation was UK or San Francisco. I think London, I know well, we are well known there, but San Francisco is US is an untapped territory for us. So, and domestic market in the US is so big.
Mm-hmm. Do you see a domestic value proposition? I mean, you haven't moved yet, but what is the proposition you would sell to the US audience?
RTP means I can't believe the fact that people have to wait 2 to 3 days to do payments. Like, listen, this is 2020.
Well, without knowing they'll be successful.
Without knowing they're successful, right? So we will be part of the RTP network in the US. I like RTP. US is the only market where for domestic people charge bips. And some of them are shocked when I said that, why do you even agree to pay bips? Like, isn't that normal is what I hear. It's not the normal. So I think the domestic market in the US is incredible. Some of the great platforms being built in the US on the domestic market is massive. So what we want to do is, we know how RTP works. We've done cross-border RTP. Now we want to plug in the domestic RTP. I think the next big thing for us is US domestic RTP connectivity.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. At the same time, we're talking about a 2.5 year, 3 year time horizon potentially for the US market to really be ready.
Not really. Actually, the RTP, the clearinghouse is doing a lot of work. So we are super plugged in. You've got 2 ways to work, either as a technology partner or get a bank. We will get a bank in. We will do all the heavy lifting to get this done. I think in the US, the domestic RTP market can be easily a $50 to $100 million revenue business in itself. Like you yourself know it so well.
Sure. But how are you going to sell it in that case relative to the existing brands that are there and the existing banks that are already there?
So if you think about it, right, the US market is a very interesting one. The big banks, right, the tech stack doesn't work, right? Like the smaller banks, I would also say the tech stack doesn't work because in the end they give you APIs, but at the back end, so we were kicking tires of a bank we want to tie up with. And we realized at the back end, they're still batch processing.
Of course.
Right. So that doesn't work. So we're trying to do something really transformative. We will be investing $5 to $10 million into a partnership with a specific bank. So what we want to do is we want the product to speak of itself. And the most amazing thing which I've picked up in the US is people don't want to speak to the sales guy. And I like that. They want to see your API stack. And if your API stack is good, they will prioritize it and ensure it.
Yeah.
that's that culture which I want to see in Asia. Asia people are like, oh, I'm not going to pay 10 cents. I'm going to pay you 5 cents, right? Like, listen, don't do that. Like the cost of you.
You need the APIs and a promo code.
Exactly.
With that, thank you very much. Thanks for coming by the office.
Pleasure.
Great luck with the venture. Great luck moving across. Great luck with the wife. And I will see you soon.
Thank you. Thanks, Joel. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.